If you're going to change the culture of where you're at, then you have to change everything. We spent all day Saturday painting the locker room, scrubbing the floors.
Some old school coaches be like, oh, it's fluff and don't worry about this extra stuff. But
at some point, like, it has to be fun. If you don't have a culture and try to make everything enjoyable, if you're going to push your girls, then you're not going to have anything at all. That's the biggest reason why we won here, because
welcome back. We got season 2 really now of our Clubhouse Talks. Jake Stewart being, I think it was our first girls basketball program we worked with out of Harrisburg, Illinois. Over 300 career wins, 15 seasons at Harrisburg, 6-time coach of the year. I think there's a lot you could speak to from being at a school for 15 seasons and just the longevity of that, but also the fun that you have during it with the media your team does and the intros. Can you give some background on the town that you're in, the program size that you're working with?
Yeah, so we're in Harrisburg, Illinois. We're at the bottom of the state, and our town has about 10,000 people in it. Our school's enrollment this year is like around 544, which puts us at Class 2A. Where we are located at is southeastern Illinois. We are actually probably the biggest school in our area, besides a 30-minute drive to the west.
So I think the first thing I want to dive into is the longevity of being at a school for 15 seasons and coaching a program for 15 seasons. I think someone on the outside looking in and be like, oh, he's won coach of the year so many times. He's been there for this long. He just gets it. He knows, like, he probably hasn't had any issues or moments of doubt. I just want to ask, have there ever been maybe moments of doubt of like motivation of like being in the role? Am I doing the right thing? Is this worth my time and effort that I'm putting into it?
Doubt was my first year. We went 8-20. We had won 4 more games in the previous year. I wrote some stuff down. Yeah, they went 4-22 the year before we came, and we went 8-20. Doubt was that year all season long. I thought I was in over my head. It just started off so bad, coaching junior high and then moving up to the varsity level. I think I was 27 at the time. My first coaching job was that year before. So yeah, there's a lot of doubt that first year, a lot of self, reflecting the whole season long. Like, are you cut out for this? Can you do this? You should have stayed at the junior high level. You're not good enough, and things like that. And what really changed for me was later on that year, teams were beating us by like 30, and then we were taking teams like to the wire into overtime that second half of the season. So, I think I still have doubt now. We just lost this year. We won 23 regular season games. And I don't want to say doubt then I can be a good coach. I think the doubt is, am I doing enough? You go from like, can you be a good coach, to are you doing enough to get your team prepared and ready to win? And this year was probably my toughest loss in the postseason as the highest seed. The first time we've ever lost as the highest seed in the postseason was just, this week. And it's been a long week for me, I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what I could have done differently to help my girls win and things like that. So I don't think that ever leaves you, but, it's always there. It's just something you have to work through.
Was there from your first season, was there anything that maybe mindset shift that helped you like stay locked in for, getting to those, little wins of just making games close at the end? Or maybe it was people believing in you? What were things that helped you, maybe not ignore the doubt, but be a little bit more reassured that this, there's some better days ahead? Was there?
Yeah, it was, I had a really good group of kids. My first year, I started 4 sophomores and then junior. I had a lot of people, a lot of coaches from other towns. I think that was probably like the biggest thing is like, you're doing a really good, because, like I said, I wrote down some stuff. We 9 losing seasons, 2012 to 2011. We took over in 2012, but we had 9 losing seasons out of 10. The 5 years before we got here, our record was 29-102. So people were used to just like beating the crap out of us pretty much. And I had a lot of coaches that I didn't know, being a new coach that was, telling me like, you guys, you're doing the right thing. You guys are being competitive. You guys are a tougher team to play. We actually have to prepare for you and go over stuff that you're going to do. So I think that year, hearing that a lot and knowing that I had 4 sophomore starters, 1 junior, everyone was going to come back the next year. I had a great assistant coach in Stephanie Farrell, another great assistant in Jacob Morris. Jacob's still with me today. And then, Nicole, my wife, always on me, you're doing fine, like you're gonna be fine. And then the second half of the season, just competing and knowing that we're getting better, I think that was the biggest part.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of it is keeping things in perspective when you're going through those hard times. And that's interesting about like the other coaches giving you that feedback. I think that's also good to keep in mind for anybody as a coach to share that with other coaches, because ultimately,
Yes.
obviously, you're not trying to help your enemies get better, but also you're trying to grow the game. And like the better the culture of the game is for your conference, like the better everything's going to be. You don't want to have bad teams in your conference, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I try to do the same thing, and just with new coaches that we face is, tell them, you're doing a good job, or, little things like that, like, your girls are really playing hard, or, if you ever need anything, film wise or anything, just give me a call. And we've had a lot of new coaches, especially in girls basketball, that come and go and things like that. So I know how beneficial and how much I appreciated others doing that for me. 15 years ago. So I try to do that as well. And if any coaches do listen to this, then, if you are, I guess, quote unquote, established coach, little things like that go a long way, because I was on the end of the older coaches and much more seasoned, established coaches, giving me great advice and helping me out whenever I first started.
Do you notice at all like younger coaches or newer coaches hesitating to get advice from established coaches, or feeling like that there shouldn't be that kind of relationship? Or do you feel like it's a pretty good like coaches circle, that people are pretty collaborative?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good, especially with, I think everyone has to depend on each other, especially with film and things like that. Huddle's a big thing, everyone trades film on. So, and I think that's like the biggest way to help each other is send film to each other like that. I have a conference, rival coach that we're pretty good friends. We help each other out. On game night, you're wanting to beat the crap out of each other and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that it's about the same as I started. I think everyone's wanting to help each other and see each other do well, besides when you play each other, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. To get into kind of the more media and fun side of what I see on the outside looking in for your program, I think what you all seem to do well is you have fun, like you have great media days, and I've seen like these dramatic like bowls like introductions, and I've seen the jerseys are fun. I think that this theater that kind of goes around the program is something that's probably really exciting for the players, for you, for the parents, and the town. So I kind of wanted to get into the details of like the logistics of one, how you bring that together, and also the thought process you have behind it. If there's anything about like why you do those things, I would imagine too in a small town like Harrisburg, like that those girls probably become like almost celebrities or people to look up to for the younger grades.
Well, the first thing that we wanted to do when we took over was basketball was probably the third or fourth favorite sport here, and we wanted to make it the top priority for, we wanted girls to want to play here. So yeah, whenever we took over, the first thing we did was change the locker room. It was awful. I mean, it was bad. If you're going to change the culture of where you're at, then you have to change everything. And that was literally the first thing we did. We came in, we spent a Saturday, we took a bunch of stuff out, we repainted the whole thing, and we just, it was me, my wife, my two assistant coaches. And like I said, whenever I took over, my assistant had a daughter who was a freshman. So she was a sophomore that summer, going to be a sophomore. They had a really close knit group of friends that had played with each other all these years. So we had some girls come on the team. We spent all day Saturday painting the locker room, scrubbing the floors, doing everything. It was all, I mean, when I say it was awful, it was dirty. It was nasty. The kids had wrote on Sharpie all over. There was Sharpie signatures on the big screen TV. So yeah, it was like there was a couch in there. There was signatures all over the couch. Like we kind of like changed that first. We wanted to have something the girls could be proud of, a place that they can come and, enjoy with each other. And that was the first thing we did. So, I think that was the biggest thing. You have to change everything.
Mhm.
And, having the camps and stuff like that for our little kids. We do media days. We want to make it fun. We're so hard on the girls throughout the course of the season. We spend so much time like preparing, practicing, and things like that, it's at some point, like, it has to be fun. You have to like do things to make it enjoyable. One of the things I'm most proud of with our program is other coaches say how our atmosphere here is at home. We have great crowds. Girls basketball, if we're being honest, it's not a huge thing. It's getting bigger. It's gotten a lot bigger since I first took over. But I sent you you guys videos on Instagram, and like those are like really, really big crowds for girls basketball. And we get a lot of compliments for that. I'm glad you brought up the Bulls intro. I grew up in the 90s, so the Bulls were rock stars. So yeah, we do the lights off, the old Bulls intro before every game, and we bring in media people to do a hype video. We also bring a photographer to do pictures and things like that. So it's culture is a big thing, and that's a big word that we use around here. And if you don't have a culture and try to make everything enjoyable, if you're going to push your girls, then you're not going to have anything at all.
Yeah, totally. I think and what you're saying too about the season being so demanding and you being, you have probably have hard practices and everything's very serious when it comes to game time. But like I was gonna bring up, some old school coaches be like, "Oh, it's fluff and don't worry about this extra stuff." But to your point, like
Yeah.
the whole season can't be this hard and fast. There needs to be something enjoyable and things to look forward to. That balance of it's probably very important for keeping the morale high and people excited. Doesn't have to be all in that kind of hard-nosed way.
No, it doesn't. It's basketball's a long season. I told the girls we started at Halloween and we ended at Valentine's Day. So, we had a trip planned up by you guys' area to Aurora, I guess, Rosary Catholic, and we were going to play there. We are going to stay 2 nights to, kind of have the girls get the experience of being on a trip, staying in a hotel, having to shoot around, having breakfast, going to the gym, and then coming back to the hotel, hanging out, going over a game plan, stuff like that. But the weather kind of ruined that. But we're going to do it again next year. We're lucky that they want to play us again, and we're going to try again next year. So that was a little fun trip that we were going to do for the kids. We play like 30 games in the summer. I'm really some coaches or people think it's crazy. It may be crazy, but it's that's what has worked for us, playing that much during the summer. And I think that a big part of that is the girls getting closer. The bus rides in the summer, 2 games and back. In the summertime, you play and then you'll set 2 games and then you'll play again. So during that 2 games, like, what are your kids doing? They're spending time with each other. We play summer games more to be around each other than the game itself. So yeah, and that's the fun part. I've already had kids like saying that they're excited about summer basketball, and things like that. So we try to do, a lot of fun things and keep it light as possible throughout the course of the season and making it enjoyable for the kids.
And going back to the locker room as like one of your first steps, changing kind of the culture, the vibe. I mean, I think so. There's some of these steps that you can take that immediately change the way things feel and the way that like people are maybe approaching your program. The locker room, obviously, being a key one of you can physically feel when you're in there about point of pride. And then talk to me about like already walked through how you did the locker room. You went in there with your wife and assistants and you got it done. Talk to me about like the media days and how those come together. Is it about like, do you coordinate with the school photographers or somebody local you guys are doing? And how do you get like the media backdrops? Like, what are these different things that you're coordinating or you're putting on maybe people on your team or, assistants to help coordinate? How is that coming together?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to walk in our locker room. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
It was awful. So I can show you like around. We had that big bulldog made.
Wow.
That was like one of the first things we had done. And this room, I can tell you, it was nasty. All this stuff is from when we took over. All the trophies of what we won. This is a new couch. It's not the couch that was here before. The kids, the girls' teams boxes, everything's open. We're a family. You're not touching someone else's stuff, and we don't have to put locks on anything here. Like I said, we're all very close and take care of each other. So you put your stuff in your box and it will not be touched with. In 15 years, I've never had a player take or be accused of selling anything. Here's all of our teams that we've had. I'm trying to see if I can, yeah, through this area is all the teams that we've had since we're here. And it's kind of messy in here. I'm sorry, guys, if you're seeing. There's our TV. We watch a lot of film on that. And then last thing really fast is our championship wall. The bad thing about this era is the newspaper business has kind of gone out of business. We have all old clippings. We still try to keep up with it with things like in this area where we have our pictures that we put up and then everything like that. So yeah, this room, we got new floor in here. The brick behind where our trophy cases, the brick and all that stuff, that was all white and it was all just dirty. We took off the drywall and then added, the brick was already behind it. We thought that looked really good. So yeah, that was the biggest thing that we did with that room. And over the years, it's obviously gotten better. The media stuff, I just reached out to. I just like to email people. I had a parent that was really close to SIU. It's a football program, or sorry, football university that is in Southern Illinois. It's in Carbondale. It's 45 minutes away. He is a big SIU football fan. He talked to their guy, their social media guy, their contact, and he's been coming and doing our media stuff as well. We just it's not just me. We have so many great people, great coaches, great parents, that great community members that love our program, that have given to our program and stuff like that. So I just like coaching basketball. I don't like I don't really like the whole I'll do the uniforms and stuff like that. I want our kids to have the best of the best and things like that. But you have to have help. You have to have really good people that'll help you. And if you don't have that, then it's going to be hard. And we have been very, very fortunate, lucky to have that. So yeah, no, SIU football, Southern Illinois University football's content guy, media guy, however you want to put it, he comes and does it. And we got hooked up with one of our parents with that guy, and it's been great ever since.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed that it may be hard at first when you're thinking about getting someone to help with the social media or photos, but once you start reaching out, there's so many people out there that are interested in contributing in some way and helping out. And to your point, like while you're focused on basketball, I think it's important that you have at least the perspective of these fun things are an important component of it, and that you're having these fun parts of it to contribute to the culture. Because when you're the head coach of a high school program, I mean, you could really make it whatever you as meaningless or as meaningful as you want. And it's an important decision you make day to day, even if it's just small things like media days and like maybe helping somebody coordinate or getting a volunteer involved and all those things that start to add up. And there might not be things that the school is measuring you on and in how you're doing things as those the media days, and if you're doing intros and all those things, but at the end of the day, they contribute to what you're building. So I think while you may not be in the weeds of doing it, it's important that you're at least finding it important, making the program exciting for people to want to contribute to.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you want the kids to leave and have a very good experience here. And winning is not just going to be you're going to have, good experience by winning, obviously, but they can't all be about that. Just adding the little things like with the uniforms and, how nice our locker room is. The girls hang out in there all the time and things like that. And then the summer trips, and then trying to schedule a overnight trip during the season, like all those factors into having great experiences here at Harrisburg playing in our program.
The last deep dive I wanted to get into was the program kind of youth funnel and the growth that you've built. You said earlier that like basketball and girls basketball wasn't, a top sport in Harrisburg when you joined, and that was something that you wanted to make a thing. So, was there a moment that when you joined that you realized that it seems like everything you've built have kind of looked at it from a lens of it's not just the varsity team that you're really growing, it's this entire program and the town's program. So you got like youth camps and, like you said, when you joined the high school team, you're talking about the middle schoolers coming up and you had that perspective. Is that something that's grown over the years? And how have you, put in certain things to grow kind of like your pipeline of girls basketball in Harrisburg?
Yeah, so we started camp, and because we do camp in October before the youth league starts. A lot of people do their camps in the summertime. We want to be different and do it before basketball season. We wanted to try to get kids to our camp because that's when basketball is going to start for them. So kids are like, ooh, like I had so much fun at camp. Like I want to play basketball this year. I think that's helped not doing it in the summertime because kids are so, softball's going on, and then, family vacation, swimming, going to friend's house, all that kind of stuff. You're so distracted. But, at the end of October, everyone is kind of cold and stuff like that. So everyone's kind of starting to get indoors a little bit for the winter. Yeah, the youth stuff we do in October before basketball to get kids excited about basketball. It's third, fourth, and fifth graders that come to our camp. We get them T-shirts. We have them up for our first home game of the year. When the girls run out of the tunnel here at Harrisburg, the campers are on the floor. They're on the floor under the goal during warm-ups, and they're on the end line during the national anthem. They are in the starting lineup intros, and then they get to play at halftime of our game in front of on the big court, the big gym, they say. because our gym is big. It holds 2,900 people. And then we keep in contact with those same kids throughout the course of the year. If they want to come back throughout the year, they get in free, things like that. So, and then we have a fourth and fifth grade travel team from here. And I've been very blessed to be able to, handpick those kids. And then I'm at the junior high all the time. Like I have a daughter that's a junior, so she just got done playing junior high 2 or 3 years ago. So I was down there, and then I have my youngest is in seventh grade. I'm down there still. So helping out, I don't want to be the person that is like, taking over or whatever. I just want to help and make sure things running right. And everything has been running right, obviously, with the success we've had. And yeah, if you don't get in your youth, then you're not going to be successful. And that's the biggest reason that I think why we won here, because basketball is probably the top sport now here in Harrisburg. But yeah, I started handpicking youth coaches. Like right now, Brad Carnes is our fifth grade girls coach. I think they're like 10-2 or 10-1 or something like that, the fifth graders. He's a former teammate of mine. We graduated and played together in 2002. Lindsay and her husband, Lindsay and Neil Atkins, are fourth grade basketball coaches for our girls. Lindsay played here in our program back in 2003, 2004. Her dad was my assistant coach, Brendan Henshaw, who is like, I think I put his name down on the mentor sheet that I filled out. He's one of, my close people. That's her dad. He was my basketball coach here, and he's helped me out a lot. It's you have to have really good, again, it's not just me. I've had so many great people that have been here.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how early it starts. When I've started doing these interviews, I didn't really take that into account, but it makes a lot of sense that when you're a varsity coach, you're not just the varsity coach. And I think for different towns, the setup or expectations are different. For Harrisburg, was it when you took over as varsity coach, was it understood that you'd be putting together youth camps or helping coordinate and hire coaches for these different ages? Or is that something that you just kind of assumed by way of natural process? Like, how is it set up at Harrisburg? And like, speaking kind of tactically, somebody taking over a new program, like, how should they view taking over their town in a way that, like you said, you're not going to be taking over and telling people how to do their roles, but you want to help set up the infrastructure and support the environment of girls basketball?
Yeah, no, that's just something that we did. We knew that it had to change. We had to create more opportunities for girls to play basketball here. That first year I made flyers and sent them out. I booked the gym here and made flyers, sent them out to all the kids in third, fourth, and fifth grade. Did our camp. I've had two really, really good athletic directors in Jay Thompson and Greg Langley. Told them that we're having the campers up on this night for the game, and they're going to do this, this, and this. And they've always just, okay, like, do what you need and we'll help you and support you. So, and I know we've had teams in the past. I don't know how much anyone's been involved with our fourth and fifth grade travel team. There's always been a fifth grade travel team. We kind of started the fourth grade travel team. Like I said, I have a daughter that's in junior high. I was trying to give her and her class some more opportunities to play. So, and then, yeah, I don't, it's so hard to look back and see what happened, but I can't even tell you who was our fourth grade kids like back then, fifth grade kids back then. But I do know that I do approach people that I know that will, not only be about their kid, but the betterment of the program as a whole. And I approach them and ask them to coach our fifth grade team. And that's been going on for about 10 to 15 years. I can't exactly tell like when that started, but I pretty much handpicked the youth coach that we have here, and it's always someone, again, because we want someone who's about the program, not just their kid. We've had really good people be our youth coaches throughout the past 15 seasons.
Yeah, I feel like, we haven't even gotten into, and I usually don't get into any of like the X's and O's of actual coaching. The thing that you're probably most like proud of your work is actually like being the coach, because I don't know, that's not what I get into. When you add in like the actual coaching that you do with the fun media stuff and the team building and the intros and making it a fun place to be, and then having the youth camps and kids showing up, you put that all together and like you could start to see how that becomes a flywheel for your program to grow. And if you just focus on one of those, if you just had a really solid team and you're a good coach and you didn't have the media and the youth, or vice versa, it kind of falls a little bit more flat. And so it's I think it's important to harp on like kind of the balance of it all. And when you're a high school coach, you might not, or maybe when you're just getting into it, you might not see how all those things come together, impact each other, but they certainly do when you take a step back, become a flywheel. When you get into your 15th season, you see kind of the fruits of all that labor.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I usually get told to go to bed throughout the whole winter. I don't sleep a lot. Constantly worrying or trying to game plan. Jake, go to bed is my wife says that a lot. Trying to like make sure everything is running right. Especially with having to the past, I guess 5 years have been a really a lot because I've had a kid playing junior high and going through high school trying to make both. I'm trying to make sure the junior high is taken care of as well, especially, with having a kid down there and stuff like that. So, but I do feel like now I'm more laid back and I'm trying to like enjoy things more. Kinsley, she's my daughter. She just finished her junior year here. She has one more year left and then she's done. So I'm going to try, and that's not just her. I coached, I guess you can say 12 years without having a kid in our program. So I'm gonna try to really enjoy this last year with her. She's been with me since 2 years old, coming to the gym, coming to the game, stuff like that. It's gonna be hard next year, knowing that and seeing her grow up in the gym and the program. And again, not just her, all her friends, the girls that are coming back next year, seniors that have been at our house, swimming all in the summertime, staying all night, the cookouts, all that stuff, like with this group, it's gonna be tough to go through. So, but yeah, it's just it's a grind. It is. If you want to win and you want to stay winning and be consistent. It's tough. I'm 42 years old. I shaved. My wife made me shave the other day. I'm baby face, but before it was like gray hair everywhere. 42 years old. Young coaches, like you're gonna have gray hair. It's gonna be you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I'm just shave it off every once in a while and you'll look young again for a week or two. So I think I'm actually starting to feel like, proud of what we've done and what we've accomplished. Like I said, I've had so many great people here and with us throughout the 15 seasons. But I guess like you want to enjoy like the fruits of your labor and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I probably have been awake for 48 hours after that was the toughest loss I've ever had. But like knowing like, man, like if you win 23 games and a conference championship and not lose a conference game and you're upset after the season, like that's how far we've come from 8-20 and be like, hey, you know what, guys? Like we almost beat that team. They beat us by 25 a week ago. We only lost to them by 5 this time. So 23 wins, conference champs, and it was probably like the hardest 2 days of my coaching career, Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Today's a little bit better, but yeah, it's been a fun ride, and we're gonna try to keep it going.
That's the hard part of being the head coach and being kind of where it all ends up is you have to in your own head be able to balance the expectations of yourself of always wanting to win and be better. Then you also tell yourself at the same time, keep it in perspective. We have all these things that are going for us and probably having a hard time figuring out where to tell yourself to land on it. Be like, no, I still want to get better and be, I still am
Yes,
happy where I was at. Yeah. It's a
it's a
juggling
constant
act.
fight, man. It's a constant fight. Well, I mean, Monday night it was awful, and we lost to a good team. They beat us in November at a tournament. They beat us here, and then we went on the road and beat them by 4. And then we played them again, and we beat them by like 25. And it was just like, okay, yeah, play them again. And it's just like, good grief, we just beat them twice in a row. And then it's like, and we know that they're going to have to beat us. They've done it before. And you know what they say? It's tough to beat a really good team 3 times, and we beat them the last 2. And we lost by 2. We were down by 16, 14, 16, and we made a furious comeback and, missed a couple of free throws, missed a couple of shots at the end, and that's just how postseason goes. Yeah, very, very just not a good place for me. Feeling like I failed the kids. We had a really good team this year, going over and over things I should have done differently. And like I said, that was the first loss we've ever had as the highest seed in the regional to not make the regional championship game at least. And it was just tough. Your email helped looking at, like I said, I was writing down stuff, going through records of the past and going through what we have done here. And that helped a lot, like looking at that. So we've come a long way and I have so many people to thank and appreciate.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing all this with us and people watching. I think great perspective and great stories and the specific stuff too is going to help other coaches down the road. So appreciate you taking the time and I'm glad I was able to finally get you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You guys are great, man. Like we've had nothing but just great reviews, so to speak, compliments, comments on the uniforms that you guys do. We love them. The kids love them. We have, for any coaches out here, I'm going to plug Clubhouse in. We have 3 sets, the lavender white, and we have our traditional Harrisburg purple. Like I told you before, I got something in mind. I'll hint on a little black and lavender coming up for next year. And like I said, I have, my daughter's class. All those girls that grew up in my house, and they're seniors now. So we're gonna try to do something extra special for them. So I appreciate you guys. I look forward to working with you guys going forward, and hopefully win a lot more games in clubhouse uniforms.